Jeff Nippard recently made a video ranking quad exercises, and I think he missed out on a couple points that I want to touch on. I know that his video is mainly about hypertrophy, so I'll mostly be talking about that, but I will also add in some points about strength training and rehab. So this video isn't a critique, but it's rather a discussion to add some points that he may not have thought about, as well as just give myself an excuse to talk about the exercises in a different context. And as you're watching this video, if you have any input as well as some exercises that you just want to talk about, please leave them in the comments. I love the discussion and I love learning about movements. And if I have the equipment needed, I'll try some of the movements out. And before I get into this video, I just want to thank my sponsors, myself. The thick and juicy shirts are in the shop, so check that out if you want to make some gains. So starting off with front squats, Jeff ranked them as A tier for comfortability, but he did say that if you can do them comfortably, he could see them being an S tier movement. Before I talk a little bit more about the mechanics of the lift, that comfortability issue is usually just more about experience with the lift. Think back to the first time you did back squats. Bar probably felt terrible on your back and they weren't comfortable. The same with front squats. If you just give yourself a good 6 to 8 weeks doing them a couple times a week, that comfortability will really come up and you'll get used to the movements, and then boom, now you've unlocked a great movement that you can use for the rest of your life. So all you have to do is just put in a little bit of work for a massive payout. Also, Jeff did point out that
the forward bar position will also force your upper back to work harder, and some coaches will argue that this causes your upper back to become the limiting factor.
Now, this is a very common critique of the front squat, and it just comes from a lack of understanding and a lack of critical thought around the movement. Jeff adds the caveat of it not mattering unless you go heavy, but the point I'm going to make still stands. So the work that the upper back has to do during a front squat is not that much, and it should never be the reason that you fail the lift, and it probably will never be the reason that you fail the lift. Even if you are going heavy, your upper back doesn't have to work that hard during the front squat. As long as you can deadlift as much as you can front squat, your upper back shouldn't be failing to the point where it makes you drop the weight and just kind of fold like a little pancake. And if you can't deadlift as much as you can front squat, then you have a much bigger problem and you need to get that deadlift up. So this belief mainly comes from dropping the bar forward during the squat. So people think that the upper back is a problem and it causes a cave in the shoulders and then you drop it. There is also a small moment arm on the upper back musculature, so there's that link as well. But if you get that bar close enough to your neck and behind your shoulders and really in that nook, then the moment arm is so small and the work that your upper back has to do is negligible. The real reason that this folding and the bar dropping forward happens is because your quads aren't strong enough to move the weight with a more upright torso, so it's a factor of your quads actually giving out. So in the front squat, your quads are disproportionately doing more work than your glutes. And when they give out, your body wants to get into a stronger squatting position, which involves hinging a little bit more and getting the glutes involved so that you can squat the weight up just like you would in a back squat. The only problem is that you don't have the same support at the front with the front squat, so it ends up with you hinging more, that bar rolling forward, getting out of that nook, and then falling down. So you failing that lift and having the bar roll forward isn't because your upper back isn't strong, it's because your quads aren't strong and you can't keep an upright enough torso to have that same movement pattern and actually lift the weight. So in Eric Bugenhagen's critique of Jeff's video, he said to just do safety bar squats instead of front squats. Now these are a little bit easier to get into and you can shift the weight forward with them and get better tension on the quads with a more upright torso. But the biggest point that I think you could make against the safety bar squats is that they don't force you to be in that upright position. Now you can mitigate this a little bit by having a more specialized safety squat bar, which brings the weight even more forward, but even then you can still pull on the handles. So my solution to this is to actually push on the handles, and that will keep you forced more upright. However, when most people are doing these squats, they pull on the handles, which gets them in that more hinged position and gets a little bit more spinal flexion, getting that posterior musculature involved, making it easier for them to bring the weight up because there's more than just the quads doing most of the work. But as I mentioned, if you're disciplined enough, you can push forward on those handles to keep a more upright torso and then keep that same tension on the quads, even if it is a little bit tougher. And overall, that pulling on the bar isn't the biggest deal. As long as you're working hard enough during these squats, you're going to get amazing quad hypertrophy and strength gains. So the difference is pretty negligible. Now there is a little bit of a gray area, and it can be argued that during the safety bar squats, you can pull on the handles to make it a mechanical drop set. So if you start the set off by being really strict and pushing on the handles until your quads fail, and then you start pulling on the handles to get more muscles involved, you can take those quads beyond failure of what you could with a more upright torso and potentially just get more of a stimulus in that set so that you can do drop sets basically built into the exercise and have to do less sets for the same payout. These can be really beneficial if you're crunched for time or as a way to switch up your programming and get a really good stimulus and a great pump. But again, if you're working hard and doing enough hard sets, then that difference isn't there anymore and they equal pretty much the same results. So just pick whichever one feels best for you and work hard. But getting back to the front squat, I think it's a great thing that they actually force you to be a lot more strict and upright with your form. So you're going to get an amazing quad stimulus out of it and a lot of growth from them. And I think that they should be a higher ranked exercise and they shouldn't have the same hate that they've been getting. Now, this hate for front squats kind of started when Mike Israetel made his video on front squats, where he kind of just bashed them and fearmongered them wrongfully, but they are an amazing exercise. And I know that Jeff wasn't hitting on front squats in his video since he ranked them A and said they could even be S tier, so I know that he also likes them, and that's a 2 thumbs up for me. All I have to say is just stop being a baby about how the bar feels on the front or with your wrist cocked back if you're doing the pronated grip. Just toughen up, stop whining, get your body adapt to it, and then you'll be able to do a great exercise. You just have to not be so soft. It's pretty simple. Next up, Jeff put lunges in B tier because he said they are a better glute exercise than quad exercise, and I completely agree with this. They are an amazing glute exercise and an alright quad exercise. However, you can make them an even better quad exercise if you alter it a little bit. So if you do them Hatfield style with a back leg focus, then you're absolutely going to blast your quads. Now, Jeff recommends bringing your foot up to get more quad in this movement, but I actually recommend keeping your foot back in your normal stance so that you can get a better stretch on your rec fem. So with the Hatfield setup, it really allows you to control how much torso lean you have and how much weight you have on your front foot, as well as shift more weight to your back foot in a stable and reliable manner. This takes a lot of the work out of your glute from the front leg and can put all that work onto your back leg, which is going to be your quads working, and it's going to be basically just pure knee extension from 90 to full knee extension. And the great thing about this is that it can also be adapted to Bulgarian split squats, so you can get a good back leg burn on those as well. And this setup also makes it really easy to take that back leg to failure safely as well as confidently. Since when you're trashed and you can just not move the weight anymore, you can just push on the handle a little bit more, lean forward, and then stand up, even if that back leg is completely gassed. So from a hypertrophy standpoint, this is amazing because you can really push those muscles hard to failure. You're not getting the most amazing stretch, but you're still getting decent range of motion at the bottom, and you can take them to failure like I already said. Now, I also want to add that this exercise can actually be great for rehab for patellar tendinopathy and other knee pain. And this is actually something that I used recently when I was rehabbing my knee. It's a great alternative if squats are uncomfortable, which was my case, because you can just easily change the load throughout the movement, so you can easily work within your limitations of your symptoms. So if you're doing something like a leg extension or a squat, and then your symptoms flare up halfway through the rep because that's the hardest point, then you're going to either have to just drop the weight or push through, which can really kind of ruin your workout, hurt your knee a little bit more, and then spike your pain up. But with these Hatfield lunges, you can just adapt how much pressure you're putting on the handle and how much weight you have on your front leg so that you can change how much work that back leg is doing during the exercise and easily work within your limitations. Wherever your symptoms are flared up, you just take weight off. They're also so accessible to just do regular reps, heavy isometrics, or heavy eccentrics because of the way you can load it and the support you can get. And on top of that versatility, because you can load it up with a more upright torso and that leg further back, you can get a decent stretch on your rec fem. It's not max stretch or amazing, but it's still pretty decent. So you're going to get good tensile loads through that patellar tendon during rehab, which is good. And you're going to limit those compressive loads of when the knee has to go forward and compresses the tendon. Those compressive loads can be very aggravating during tendinopathy. So limiting them can be a really good thing and can help to reduce your symptoms. Now, I'm not saying that across the board compressive loads on your tendons are bad and that you should avoid them at all costs. I'm just saying that if those loads aggravate your tendon, this is a great way to minimize those loads while still getting a great quad workout as well as a great tendon loading workout. So Hatfield lunges can actually be a pretty great quad builder, but they're also amazing for rehab and their versatility is just phenomenal. It does require a bit more equipment, but it is still pretty accessible. I hope that this discussion helps you to just open your mind up a little bit and helps you realize that all exercise is made up and sometimes it just takes a little bit of creativity to modify the exercises so that they can best fit your body, your needs, and your goals so that you can get the best results from them. Now, I agree with Jeff's ranking of knee extensions being A tier, but I want to add one piece of information that he didn't add to his critique of them. And that point is that you can never really get max range with them. Even if you're laying back to get more rec fem stretch, you're always going to be limited by the pad, so you can never fully bend your knee and take all of your quads to max stretch. Despite that, it's still a great exercise, but an alternative for this, if you don't have one or if you just want to switch it up, or if you want to try getting that max stretch, is to actually do knee extensions on a cable machine. Now, this setup can be a little bit awkward at first, but once you get it, it becomes really easy and isn't really much of a hassle to set up at all. And another great thing about this setup is that you can control how much rec fem stretch you have by leaning forward or keeping your body upright. So if you really want to blast that rec fem and you go completely upright, then this cable is going to pull your heel right to your butt and you're going to have a complete stretch on that rec fem and it is going to blow it up. Also, the loading potential on this exercise is amazing if you have a plate loaded stack like myself, and that loading potential goes through the roof even more if you have thin calibrated plates. I would say it definitely doesn't change the ranking of the exercise, and in terms of stability and how hard you can push it, it might be a little worse than the machine leg extensions, but the extra range kind of makes up for it. So all in all, you're kind of giving somewhere and taking somewhere else. I just wanted to point it out because I think it can be a fun alternative, and I think a lot of people should give it a try. Now, finally, Jeff decided to put jump squats in F tier, which I think is an absolutely wild decision. Even if you are looking at them from a purely hypertrophic standpoint, explosive movements can stimulate a lot of motor units, and they have been shown to produce significant muscle growth, even if it's just small to moderate effects. So putting these in the same ranking as Bosu ball squats and combination lunge curl presses is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And that's not to mention that these studies looking at plyometrics usually don't take the muscles through a full range of motion. So if you're doing jump squats well, where you're going deep into the hole, producing as much force as fast as you can as soon as you're in that hole and trying to get as high as you can on every single jump, you're going to get some pretty decent hypertrophy from that. It's not going to be amazing, but it'll be a lot better than F tier. And jump squats are so easily weighted. You can hold some dumbbells, you could even hold a trap bar, or just put a barbell or safety squat bar on your back and boom, you have some significant weight on it and that stimulus goes through the roof. I love doing these with a barbell or SSB, and you can just drop right into the hole, and then as soon as you're at the bottom, you're trying to push as hard as you can and jump as high as you can. Even with 70 kilos, these can be a pretty good stimulus, and sometimes I like to work up trying to get to the 140 range, and holy hell, my quads are blasted after these. So sure, if you're doing those jump squats like Kim K and the Kardashians where they throw their arms down and get 2 inches off the ground with the least work possible and just the absolute most horrendous effort, then yeah, they're going to be terrible for hypertrophy. But if you actually put good effort in, even unweighted, if you're jumping with max effort each time until your height drops down and your speed drops down, which shows that you are significantly pushing your muscles closer to failure, then you're going to get good hypertrophy from them. They're an amazing way to just keep that stimulus. If you have to go on a trip somewhere or you can't make it to the gym, throw in 3 sets of really hard jump squats, 10 to 20 reps until you can barely jump anymore. Max effort each time, you're going to get some good hypertrophy and keep your gains. So I think these deserve to be higher than F tier, and I think it's just absolutely wild that they ended up there. Now, as an aside from hypertrophy, jumping can be a great tool for rehab as well as just getting comfortable in the bottom of the squat. So these little in the hole hops can be amazing for just getting more comfortable with deep knee bends as well as the whole of a squat, and they can really easily be done. Doesn't take a lot of work, doesn't take a lot of time. Also, tendons respond really well to fast loading, so doing those jump squats is a staple in a lot of tendon rehab, and once your tendons can handle it, they should be done. It'll help you build up some more robust tendons and just be more resilient overall. I hope these extra points got you to think about these exercises a little bit differently and possibly open up your mind to some variations that you may find beneficial to your training. And in the very slight chance that Jeff is watching this video, I hope that you also found some benefit from this, and maybe it gets you to think of some variations that you haven't done before also, and you can throw them into your training. Anyways, thank you for watching. Now go out there and make some gains.